Hi, this is Érika from a Small Robot Studio. Today I want to show you how to do bakes in Nomad Sculpt. I'm not talking about sculpting cakes, but rather transferring detail and paint from a high-resolution mesh to a low-poly model which can be used inside a game engine or renderer. When sculpting, we use high-resolution topology to give us room to create detail. However, this exact model will simply be useless in production because of the unnecessary amount of faces. In Nomad, when I select an object and open the topology menu, on the very top, it's going to show me the number of faces that make the selected object and the scene total. This high poly sculpt has 443k quad faces plus 13.6 tri-faces. Its total, it's pretty close to 1,000,000 triangles. A standard AAA hero character averages 150k tries, so this cat clearly needs to shed some polygons. The first step is to optimize the poly count. So I'll start by duplicating my model and add to the original's model name the suffix _high and the duplicate _low. Now head over to the topology menu and open the fourth tab, deci/UV. The first section, decimation, will recalculate the topology, reducing it by the percentage we set it to. By default, it is on 50%, so it will roughly halve it. Make sure to turn on the wireframe so you can see the changes. Press decimate, wait a second, and see how Nomad reduces the poly count. I'll need to repeat the process a few times because this mesh is still too high. But as you can appreciate, the lower I go, the more the painting and details are lost. Not to mention how corners get destroyed. So how is it possible to a mesh like this to have any details? The answer is through normal maps. They are a special type of texture images that stores surface information. Which leads me to the question, how much detail is it okay to lose while optimizing? The rule of thumb is, if a volume is clearly visible in the silhouette, we must protect. Big shapes such as the volumes of the chest and the arms are visible even if I unlit my model. Elements like the fur bits or the stone microtexture do not contribute to the silhouette, so it's okay to lose them when I'm reducing the poly count. I will bring them back later. Knowing this, I painted and sculpted the detail and micro detail inside layers, so I can turn them off on my duplicate mesh. Now, to protect the deep corners and crevices, I'll use a paintbrush with any visible color. On the brush preferences, I'll activate depth filtering and take this number to the negatives. My brush will only paint the cavities. If I bring this number up, then it will focus only on the corners that stick out. Back in the decimation menu, I will make sure Preserve Paint is active. Now, when I decimate, Nomad is gonna do a much better job optimizing than before. I'm gonna push this decimation to be close to 5k triangles. And then I'm gonna get rid of the layers, including the one with the protection paint. Before I move on to the next step, I wanna take a moment to thank the amazing people who support the channel via Patreon. You are all amazing. Thank you so much. All our patrons gain access to a growing library of assets, which includes this sculpt both in high and low resolution. Learn more about it at patreon.com/smallrobotstudio. Our next stop is just below decimation, UV unwrap. A UV map is a flat version of our model where we can apply texture images with information like colors or, normal maps. UV unwrapping is the next step, but all I need to do is to tap the button, wait a little bit, and it's all done. Nomad did it all for us. I must note that in game development, we never purely rely on automatic tools. This process created way too many cuts, and it's likely to waste precious space. But manual UV unwrapping is the topic for another video. For this tutorial, we are good to continue to the final step. baking textures. Same menu, one step lower, and we've got texture baking. In this baking process is where Nomad is going to take the information from the high poly sculpt and store it on a 2D image. I'm going to set the resolution to 2048, 2K, and hit bake from the high resolution mesh. Nomad will use as reference the most similar mesh. Voila! The detail is back, and our mesh is super low poly compared to the original. The paint will be transferred too. In my case, I simply need to switch to PBR shading to be able to see it. Let's now head over to the material menu. At the bottom in the texture sections, we have the image files that Nomad created. The normal maps are the purple ones. With the slider, you can adjust the intensity or turn it off. Other material information from your model, like color or roughness, will each have their own texture image. What if maybe you want to paint in Procreate? Let's now head to the project menu, export, select OBJ, activate, only include selected objects, and make sure export textures is active. Nomad is going to generate a folder with multiple files. Then I'm going to open Procreate, and on the side, I'm going to open the iPad's file app. I'm going to find this folder and drag the full thing into Procreate's gallery. This is how you can import a model with the normal maps or any other texture that you painted. Otherwise, you're only gonna see the low resolution model. In my case, the normals look a little bit off. I'll explain why shortly, but right now it's not important. I'll simply paint something quick. Now in the Range menu, select the Share tab. At the bottom, select Export Textures and save that folder. What I care about is the PNG file that contains the color that I just painted. Back in Nomad, I'll open the Material menu to find the textures. Now open the options for color and select the file, and we are all done. To take this model into a renderer or game engine, you'll also need the collection of files created on the export. Now, let me be honest with you. This is my least favorite way to create normal maps. It's easy, but the result is not amazing. It might look fine in Nomad, but just like it looked off in Procreate, here's what it looks like in Unreal Engine. The biggest problem lies in the automatic UV unwrapping. Let me show you. In Nomad, I'm gonna turn on the UV visibility at the bottom, then tap and hold again the same button. On this mini menu, activate Show on Mesh and pick Normal. Note how every cut in the UV map is basically visible. Each cut can be disruptive. On the contrary, this mesh was manually unwrapped and is much cleaner. In a future video, I'll take you a step closer to real industry practices. Instead of using the automatic tools, we'll delve into Cozy Blanket for extra control. But for today, this is great. So, I'll see you soon in a new tutorial. Happy baking! That's it for this tutorial. If you find it useful, make sure that you leave a like so other people can find it. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, as we are bringing out CG and illustration tutorials every week. Become a patron and access tutorial assets, bonus content, a private Discord, and more by clicking in the link below.